Welcome to the More Podcast with Ava and Najee, where we are manifesting original rich bitch experiences. Each week, we bring you travel reviews, wellness advice, and general millennial musings with a level of refinement. What level? It fucking depends. Hey Najee, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. Another lovely day, another pod, another week, another, moment
A
of
chance
fun.
to start over. Yeah,
Yes.
it's going to be great. Amazing.
You're amazing. I like your shirt.
Thanks. My fun fact, my boss gave it to me for Christmas. For some reason, my bosses love to either give me alcohol or like clothing items for Christmas. I know my last boss before her actually gave me like a scarf. I think the boss before that gave me a scarf as well. And
Really?
I'm like, is it because I'm like gay? I do love clothes, so why not? I'll take it.
A work boss gifting you clothing seems like a very high risk gift.
Yeah, clothing is really a hit or miss. I thought the scarves were a safe bet.
Yeah.
But she gave me this shirt and I was just like, I'm not sure where I'm gonna wear this shirt. But every so often it like pops up in my eye view when I'm looking in my closet and I'm like, that'd be a great shirt to wear on recording day.
Yeah. It's a black shirt with a purple heart on it.
Yeah.
It's
And it
cute.
has like other stuff. This on the sleeve it says heat heart. I thought it said heart heat. I think on the back there's like a rose or something.
Oh,
Oh yeah, there's a
yeah.
rose on the back.
That's so cute. No wonder I like it. There's a rose on the back.
Yes, I thought about you. I was like, this is purple. She'd like this. And it has a rose on it.
Thank you for bringing the purple energy to the pod.
Of course. It's part of our brand, darling.
Obviously. Always on brand. And speaking of on brand, today we have a very millennial musing topic.
Yay.
We are going to be reviewing, breaking down, reflecting on some of our favorite 2000s cult classic movies.
Awesome. It's going to be really fun. So the ones that we actually landed on to discuss this week are three of my favorites from the early 2000s.
Yeah.
And we have one that recently released on Netflix earlier this year.
Yeah.
So we'll be covering Mean Girls,
Mm-hmm.
Legally Blonde,
Mm-hmm.
The Devil Wears Prada,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'll talk about Do Revenge, a movie on Netflix.
Dun, dun, dun. Yes. And we picked
Yes.
that because we thought it'd be appropriate to do a compare and contrast of essentially the Gen Z version of Mean Girls. Debatable, but we'll talk about it.
We'll talk about it.
Yes.
So should we just jump right into Mean Girls?
Let's do it.
Awesome. So, well, Mean Girls is actually my all-time favorite movie. As we know, I feel like it drove a lot of culture back in the 2000s and even to this day, where there's just so many very quotable lines, funny moments, and just really creative out-of-the-box thinking by the writers who were on that movie. And also really great performances from the actresses. I love the movie so much. I think it's so funny. And I think it kind of accurately portrays high school in a very exaggerated way, where it didn't feel as heavy as a lot of the high school dramas feel today. I don't know if you felt that way, but I feel like high school dramas in media today just feel super heavy.
I would agree with that, but I also think that times are heavier. And so part of me just wonders like if it's really just a reflection of where we're at or if it is an over dramatization, because I feel that, so Mean Girls, 2004, let's paint the scene. 2004, we were 14 years old.
Mm.
So when this movie came out, we were about to head into high school. And like having that mindset or approach to it, it's like, is this what's coming? Because we weren't fully immersed in that yet. And it was giving us a little like snapshot of like, is this what my life is about to become? You're like a junior high school student. You're like, oh my God, like high school is going to be intense. But I agree with you. Like there are things about Mean Girls that are like very I think, reflective and accurate of everyone's high school experience, just from the mundane, but like very big deal of like where you sit in the cafeteria. Like, I don't know about you, but
Mm,
for me, like I hated lunch hour. Like the whole being in the cafeteria, there's all the social dynamics. Where you sit, like, actually was a thing. You know, it's like you want to feel like you have friends and you want to sit with your friends, but it's like that was very real for me. And so I feel like,
mm.
you know, pulling those elements into it gave everyone at least an entry point to relatability of like the broader high school experience.
Yeah, I can't say, I just feel like high school for me was very regular. Like, I feel like I knew a little bit of everybody in all the cliques. And I was also like a thespian darling. So, I was on the stage and performing. So that was my little clique. But I had friends like all over the place. And I just remember also wanting high school to be over. It just felt it felt very regular in a way. And I can't really say that I've seen a high school movie that accurately portrayed my experience, especially like with the whole gay thing and coming out. It just felt like, I mean, there's media that these days that actually portray that, but it still feels a little like Hollywood. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But I just love the the comedy aspect of it all, and I would say it was a really, really, really great story. I don't know. I really loved Mean Girls.
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, the other, like, the main element obviously is like popularity. And I think whether or not, you know, you're in this friend group or that friend group, it's like popularity is the most viable thing as a high school student. You want to be popular
Yeah.
because you want to have friends, and you want to be popular because it means you're not bullied. Maybe you're the bullier, which is not a good thing, but it's like you're defining your place on essentially like the food chain.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
tough. Like, I was not popular in high school. The popular people in my high school were um, the ones who played sports. So, like,
Oh.
if you were on, and especially for girls, it's like if you were like on the basketball team or if you were on the soccer team or whatever, it's like you were a popular girl. I did not play sports in high school. I don't play sports in life. Like, I danced, but it was outside of school. My high school didn't have any cheerleading or dance programs. So like
Mm-hmm.
my kind of like extracurriculars happened outside of the school setting. But I would say like I was more of like a popular adjacent. Like, I had friends who were on the soccer team, for example, but like I
Mm-hmm.
definitely wasn't cool. Like, I was a smart girl. I was in like the like honor society, this and that, the other thing. But I wasn't like super nerdy either. So like I didn't really feel like I had a place in high school. And I think maybe it's just because like I'm a girl. Like, I feel
Mm.
like I really, really related to a lot of what went on in Mean Girls, just based off of the fact that, like, you know, Lindsay Lohan's character comes in and it's like she's the new girl and she has to figure out where she fits in on this food chain. Everyone has that kind of like moment where they're like, where do I fit in here? And she does the thing that most people would try to do, which is like, well, I want to be in with popular crew because like life looks better there.
Yeah. You weren't eating lunch in the bathroom stall by yourself, were you?
No, but as soon as I was able to leave campus for lunch, like I think it was like once you were a junior or a senior, you could technically leave school campus for lunch. I was fucking out of there. Like, I didn't want to
Yeah.
be submerged in like that social setting for one more minute.
Oh.
Yeah, there was actually a McDonald's across the street from my high school. And then, so that's like, I'd have French fries, a large French, this is so bad. I'd have large French fries and like a milkshake for lunch. And that was a good
I
day.
mean, yeah, that sounds pretty typical. It's just like, oh well, how was your day? It was fine. Were people nice? Not really.
No.
Did you make friends? I guess. And it's a lot of like contradiction within high school,
Yeah.
but it's honestly just a lot of people kind of trying to figure out who they are. And I guess that's really what adolescence and coming of age is. I would never go back there ever, but I think a lot of us can say if we could do things differently with the knowledge that we have now, we wouldn't mind giving it another shot, you know?
Yes, I definitely hear you. So being a thespian, like what was your experience like? Was that like perceived as a good thing in your school? Like was it an enjoyable clique?
I mean, yeah, I feel like, I don't know, like high school just felt so regular for me because everyone had their places. Sometimes people mixed and mingled within cliques. Just like you, I was kind of like popular adjacent, so I knew cheerleaders. Some of my friends were football players, like things like that, and they knew a lot of people. But I was just kind of happy to find my little corner of the world and make it happen, especially with the whole like coming out during high school thing, and then you're already like extremely insecure,
Mm,
and you kind of want to be perceived as very likable and you want to be desired and things of that nature. So a lot of that stuff starts early, and it's hard to navigate because even as an adult, as a fully formed adult, it's kind of hard to navigate. So you can only imagine being a semi formed teenager that's still kind of working it out, going through a lot of these feelings.
yeah. Then did you date in high school?
Did I date in high school? I did have a boyfriend later in my high school days, and I had a couple girlfriends, which obviously didn't work out.
Shout out to them.
Shout out to them. We love them. But ultimately, I just got the fuck out of there. Oh my gosh. I can't. When it was time to graduate, I couldn't get out fast enough. I was like, I'm going to a school in a different state, in a different city, and I don't want to see any of you people.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I got a fresh start. That's where I really, really got my fresh start. But I will say that Mean Girls was like kind of like a shining light during that time because I just always remember how funny it was, and just how creative it felt. And even though I can't really relate to any of the characters because I didn't feel like any of those characters were really in my high school, you
Mm,
felt like there was like certain elements within certain people.
sure.
And I will say that was one of the movies that caused me to never trust popular people because people who are loved by everyone can be trusted by no one. I genuinely feel that.
Yeah. Well, so we watched it back, obviously, to be like fresh on everything that happened for this episode, which was so fun. Best homework ever. And it's like, I know how iconic the movie is, but I was really reminded of that over the weekend when I rewatched it. It was really like a culture driver, at least for me as like a female in high school that could like kind of relate a little bit to each of the main characters. But just like things from like, okay, October 3rd, like every October 3rd, like does that date pass that you don't actually think about the movie Mean Girls? Like it was a completely irrelevant date. And then like just because it's a moment in the movie, everyone's like, oh, it's October 3rd.
It's Mean Girls Day.
Right? Like on Wednesdays we wear pink. Did you ever like inadvertently or intentionally wear pink on a Wednesday? I know I did. Like the plastics, you've got the burn book. Like how many iterations of that have we seen in like movies, music videos? Like I feel like that concept of that burn book has then like been like personified ever since. Not saying that I had one, but again, it's just another like very memorable moment. The three-way phone call, like I think that's really funny because in 2004, like technology was coming online from a personal use perspective, but like obviously it wasn't quite to what it is now. So it's like we've got the flip phone. But like at home, do you remember like calling your friends on the landline? And did you ever use like the three-way phone call?
Yeah, there was a couple of times that where we had to play a little three-way trap to figure something out. So, I did relate to that moment.
Like that is such a relic because I don't even know how to do that on my iPhone anymore. You know what I mean? Like I know it's possible, but I don't know how to like patch
I
the
mean,
way.
you do it the same way. You call one person, you call the other, and you connect them both. You do it actually the same way.
Or like I think of like every Christmas, like the Jingle Bell Rock and that performance.
Doom, doom, doom.
Yes. So good.
Yes, Lindsay Lohan showed off her pipes during that moment. Queen of Pop.
Queen
No doubt
of
about
Pop.
it. Like, where's her Grammy for that moment?
Oh, never got fully recognized for what she deserves.
I know. I mean, I would have nominated it.
Or it's like, I even quoted, like, I'm not a regular mom, I'm a cool
I'm a
mom.
cool
Do
mom.
you remember? Like, I didn't do that intentionally, but I pulled it into one of our pod episodes. And I'm like, that's another moment from Mean Girls that's just like clearly etched in the brain.
Yeah, I feel like I quoted that during the our first travel review. I'm not a regular mall, I'm a cool mall.
Yeah. Yeah. I said that for sure. And it's like, that's so silly, but it's like, that's just part of when you watch something enough times, it's like, you can't not remember it.
Absolutely not. And just like the feat that these girls went through. I mean, Regina George really ate that burn book scam by calling herself an ugly fucking slut or something like that. Within an hour, she had that book like all over class. She had snitched on her ex friends. I mean, she caused chaos. And I'm like,
Yeah.
this is diabolical. This is genius. I love it.
Yes, she was definitely a bit mischievous in that sense. And I feel like I was thinking about the word slut because it's very prominent in Mean Girls. And I think it actually is pulled through in Legally Blonde as well. But it's like, I don't think that's a word that we've reclaimed yet, in the sense that, like, take bitch, for example. I
Hmm.
think that word has been totally reclaimed in the sense that it used to be something that was used like derogatory towards women. Now it's something that, I mean, it's in the tagline of our pod.
Yeah.
Like, it's something that we've like flipped into a positive moment or something that we actually want to resonate with, which is really cool. I don't feel like sluts had that same like reclaim, but I also don't know if people use that word anymore.
Uh, I don't really know either. I feel like in this world where we're trying to move towards more progressive ideas, sex positivity being one of them,
Hmm.
uh, I feel like people use like whore and hoe more. I think that's used more colloquially, like, oh my gosh, this dumb hoe, like something like that. But slut, I don't really know. But it also had me thinking, just kind of looking at these movies, that there's going to be a time where thoughts that we feel like are super progressive right now are going to be very, very commonplace.
Hmm.
And then there's going to be something more progressive happening. So it's just like being able to kind of look at culture through media at different times kind of really lets you know where you were at one place and how far we've come.
Yeah.
But also, it gave me light as to how far we can go moving forward. So there's light at the end of the tunnel. Maybe we might not reclaim slut, but ideally, kind of sex positivity will actually be more commonplace, especially for women, because I don't think we're there yet. I think there's been
Yeah.
progress made, but I don't think we're there yet.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree with that for sure. Sigh.
Big sigh. But you know what thing that really, really bothered me about Mean Girls?
Hmm.
Thonged flip flops.
Thong flip flops. What's wrong with those?
I'm sorry, thonged flip flop heels.
Flip flop heels. Oh,
Yes.
like the little kitten ones that are like.
I feel like I saw that during the movie a little too many times. I'm like, what are these heel thong flip flops? Like, what is happening right now?
I definitely had a pair or two of those.
I'm so glad those are over.
You know, they don't really serve much of a purpose. Like,
At all.
they don't give you height. They don't give you comfort. And so it's like the comfort and ease of a flip flop, like the purpose of a heel. Like, I don't know what we're doing with those. I really don't know.
It just baffles me. It's a real baffling thing. It's the one thing that I notice every time I watch that movie. I'm like, oh, these heeled flip flops. What's happening right now?
Yeah. I mean, I think I think at its time, like, there were definitely some fashion moments, or there were just like things that it's like, oh yeah, I had that. Um, for me, like, less with Mean Girls, a little more with Legally Blonde, which we can talk to in a little bit. But like, I definitely had a lot of those, or like even like the hoops, like Gretchen talking about wearing hoop earrings. Like, there are just like so many moments where I'm like, I was that little kid. Like, I was immersed in all of that, which is just so funny to see now because it's kind of a time capsule. And I actually like wish that I had kept a lot of my like because like, you know, everything's coming back around and it's like I really wish I had like my BlackBerry Sidekick or like my Razr flip phone or like my iPod Nano or just like some of the ridiculous like t-shirts. Like I wish I had those things because it's such a time capsule.
It's definitely a blast from the past. I will say that.
And to clarify, I don't wish that I was like using them. I just wish I had them and I could like pull them out of the box and be like, look at this dinosaur.
Oh gosh, I don't need anything else to make these kids think I'm older than I really am. They look at a rotary phone and say, "What is this?" I learned on the internet some time ago that kids don't even know why we say hang up the phone. And I'm just like, huh?
Hang up the phone?
Yeah.
Do you say that now though? Like how would you ever say hang up the phone?
Oh my gosh, when me and my friends have to get off the phone, or if someone has to get off of a FaceTime and they can't like hang up because they're doing something, they always scream to me, hang up. And I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, I'm sorry.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's like a your friends thing.
Or like, oh my gosh, she hung up on me. Has anyone ever hung up on you?
No.
Like, what would you say instead of that? Like, they cut off the phone cord, or they cut off the phone line, or they end the call? Like,
no, like a butt dial or like you cheeked me.
no, if someone hung up on you, like if you were fighting with someone, they said, oh,
back
well,
then.
fuck you.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about now.
I'm talking about now. Like,
okay.
people still use the term hang up.
And
the kids don't really understand that.
I don't think people are using that term.
Okay.
But maybe we should do a poll.
I don't know very many people under the age of 21, so there's that.
Well, regardless, I think there are so many moments. And I will say that kids under 21, I would argue like they are more familiar with Mean Girls than they even know. Because I realized when I was watching back this movie that one of the most viral TikTok sounds actually came from Karen's mouth. I can't go out, cough, cough, I'm sick.
Boo, you whore.
That's a separate video. The audio cuts on that one. But that was like one of the most popular TikTok sounds last year. And it's so funny that I didn't even place it from the movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, no. That whole line, that even boo you whore, it's like I use both of them separately. Like whenever I didn't want to go out because, you know, I'm super anti, I'd be like, I can't go out tonight. I'm sick. Or someone does something that you don't like, you'd be like, boo you whore. We did that all throughout high school. I still do that now.
Yeah. So obviously you don't even need to go on TikTok because you're just a walking TikTok.
I mean, yeah. Like I still use also whenever anyone does something good, I'm like, oh, for you, Glen Coco, you go Glen Coco. Like I feel like I quote that movie pretty often. Oh my gosh, another one. When Gretchen was complaining about Regina and she was just like, and I've never told anybody because I am such a good friend. I use that gif all the time. I am such a good friend. I'm like, oh gosh. It just really reminded me about how much I love that movie.
Yeah. It's so good and it's undeniably like a cult classic.
Undeniably very iconic.
Very,
and it's just
very,
like
very
so understated
iconic.
too. Like I don't think anyone knew how long it would resonate with culture overall.
Yeah.
Like it's still standing the test of time to the point where they even made a musical about it.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. They did make a musical about it. And then our love, Ariana Grande made a montage of the video in a music video for Thank You Next.
Iconic. So
iconic, which I think is one of the greatest music videos of our generation.
It's definitely one of my favorite Ariana songs.
It is. Thank You Next was a fucking banger the whole way through, the whole album.
Yeah, front to back. Even like her initial announcement of it, I was like, she ate that. She did that. I love it.
Okay, but we're going to give all these movies not a rating. We're going to give them a zodiac sign. So if we had to summarize Mean Girls, which zodiac sign would this movie be? What do you think?
So I said Pisces.
Okay. Why?
Something about it felt very Pisces, emotionally charged, yet
Okay.
very controlled in a
Hmm.
way. Um, Overall, I felt like Pisces. There were some parts, like the whole manipulation, I'm going to get you back thing that always feels very Scorpio, but I really feel like Caddy is like a Pisces.
It's Katie.
Yeah, I'm going to call her Caddy. So I feel like she's a Pisces, and since she was driving the movie, that's why I rated it that.
Okay.
What do you
Very
think?
interesting. I also based this movie's zodiac rating, this is what we're calling it, off of Katie as a main character. However, I very much think it's a Libra. I think it's a Libra because there's a lot of good versus bad, balancing, judgment, fairness, equality going on throughout the whole journey. So
Mm-hmm.
she comes in very wholesome, very homeschooled, very humanitarian, um, and obviously gets pulled into like a very toxic world. And you kind of see her kind of like battling back and forth with like what she knows is right versus what she's currently doing. And like ultimately, it ends when she kind of brings everything back into balance, looks at everything more fairly. And for me, like that reads very, very Libra.
Interesting. I can see that. Libras have a knack for excelling in social situations
And keeping the
organically.
peace ultimately. But
Yeah, I don't know if she kept that peace per
well,
se,
she
but
does in the
she
end.
she brought it back.
Yeah.
She brought it back. She caused the chaos partially at first, but she brought it
Yeah.
back.
I mean, Regina causes the chaos. I think I gave, but I thought about the other main characters and I definitely thought Karen was a Pisces
Karen being a
with her
Pisces.
ESP and like the weather reading with her boobs.
Okay. It's a 68% chance it's already raining.
Exactly.
Hey, ma'am, just go home. She doesn't even go here.
Oh, okay. All right. So, anything else on Mean Girls, best movie of all time?
Best movie of all time, super iconic. I love it.
Okay.
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. Next, we revisited Legally Blonde. So, Legally Blonde, 2001.
Whew.
So, Mean Girls, 2004, high school.
Shut.
Legally Blonde, 2001, but like college/grad school era. So,
Mm-hmm.
again, we're kind of growing up with the movies. We had our high school moment to relate or not relate to. Now we're having our college years moment to relate or not relate to. And I love this movie. I love Reese Witherspoon. I think that this movie is just, it's like when you want to watch something that's kind of a feel good, I think this is the pick.
Mm.
Because it's not too heavy in any of the like dealings really. And it's just a little more like lighthearted, I think, and fun.
Yeah.
But the concept here is obviously Elle Woods is a sorority queen. I cannot say that I relate directly or indirectly to what is it, Greek culture.
Mm-hmm.
There was no sororities in my family line. There were no fraternities in my family line. Like
Yeah.
nobody has participated in that circus, frankly, in my life. Did I go to a college where it was an option? Yes. Did I pursue that option? No. Did I attend a few frat parties? Yes. Do I relate to sorority girls? No. So like for me coming into this one where like I kind of shared with you, like I really felt like I was part of Mean Girls, I wasn't automatically like seeing myself in this movie as much.
Yeah, I can see that. I feel like Legally Blonde very much had LA vibes, just the
Yes.
overall aura and vibe, even though most of the movie took place in Boston.
Hmm.
I loved that it just felt very nostalgic overall, even like down to the opening and closing song.
Yeah.
Like I just loved it. And
Perfect
yeah,
day.
nothing's getting in my way, baby. And I was just
Uh-uh.
like, wow, this is a blast from the past. And then it had Ali Larder in it. And I was just like, Ali Larder, oh
Yes.
my gosh.
I
Fun
know.
fact, she was actually a special guest at one of our opening parties when I worked at Radisson Blues. So I was just
Really?
like, oh my gosh, yes. She was pregnant at the time. I
In
remember that.
Philly?
Yeah. 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 She was there. And I was just like, wow. Ali
Well, shit,
Larder.
we should get her on the pod.
We should. Oh my gosh. I'm obsessed with her. She's so gorgeous. I forgot all about her. Obsessed. But yeah, I've never really did the whole sorority fraternity thing. It was just like never really my thing. Obviously not.
I'm like shaking my head. I'm like, no,
It obviously
no.
not. But I would say Elle was probably my favorite protagonist out of like all three of the movies that we watched
Yeah.
because she was consistently herself,
Yes.
which I love. She was very, very smart. She thought outside the box. She was very crafty. And I really loved all of the support that she had. She had a ton of friends that really loved and supported her.
Mm-hmm.
Even though her parents didn't take her seriously,
Mm-hmm.
they still, you can tell that they loved her and wanted her the best for her and to do whatever she wanted to do and follow her dreams and all that. And even if her motives were a little misguided, she
Yeah.
learned a lot through the process.
It's true.
It was really great.
That's true. So like the motive, like obviously of going to Harvard Law was like she was following and trying to win back a boy, her
Ugh,
ex-boyfriend, which we hate that storyline.
hate that.
But in the end, ultimately, she decided that she was doing it for herself. We love that.
Obsessed.
And I agree with you. Like, she just, like, she's very determined and motivated. And I think it was a nice example of, like, how you can essentially put your mind to something, you can achieve it at despite the odds, despite no one really believing in you. Like, if you believe in
Mm-hmm.
yourself and you commit yourself, like, you can do anything. And that's very much something that I resonate with. And I believe that as well. And so, I agree with you. Like her character, she is very just true to who she is. She doesn't really change herself. I mean, she takes on topics that like maybe she wasn't previously interested in, but I think that opportunity for growth is always available to everyone. But she never changes who she is at her core. She's always going to be like the best dressed because she loves fashion. She's always going to have her doll. She's got like her things, she's got her friends, and she never tries to like one of the contrasts that I love is like when they go from the West Coast to the East Coast, and it's like everything in California is bright and sunny and colorful, and then like they plop her on the East
Yeah.
Coast and it's like dark and serious and brick and like books and like old dusty shit. But it's like she's like she's got like the orange laptop. Everyone else has like the
Yes.
boring gray shit. Like she always stands out in her way, which I really love.
And to your point of her like working really, really hard to get into law school, I just loved how kind of smart and how much she wasn't afraid to like take risk. I think
Mm,
our first showing of how smart she was is when she went to a store, I believe, to get fitted for a dress.
mm,
And the sales associate thought that she was just another dumb trust fund baby spending her daddy's money and tried to sell her a dress that was on sale for full price.
mm-hmm.
And Elle knew her stuff about stitching, fabric, and fashion trends. And she said, "Oh no, bitch, you're not going to get me." And basically told the sales associate off. So then when she was studying for Harvard and she had her Harvard like admittance or
Her
like
admission video.
application video, yes.
Yes.
And it was like a 10 sexually charged. It was kind of light and funny. I was like, she did that on purpose because she knew her audience.
Yeah.
So she rolled in enough points to make it seem like she really, really, really knew what she was talking about, because obviously she did. But she was also playing up to an audience. Shout out to Steve Martin, who was on that admissions panel, because I was like, this random appearance from Steve Martin, weird. But
The admissions video is definitely like one of my favorites, and I think
it's definitely a highlight.
it's such a relic because like the way it's recorded, like they've got like the camcorder, like the REC, like the red bubble in the corner, like it's very like dated, but it's very true to like that time. And I think for her to make a video at that time too, like it's probably the only video, like people weren't sending in like reels. But again, I think that's reflective of like living in LA and like being kind of part of like maybe like Hollywood adjacent, or like she was probably also kind of drawing that inspiration from like movies, right? Because like what was her reference to like legal jargon and those types of things? It's like probably things that she had seen in the media. So she was kind of like recreating that. Like it's kind of a meta moment when you think about it. But yes, that was very, very iconic.
I just remember in the video,
what happens in days of our lives.
She said, "I'm very well versed in legal jargon," and in the video, some guy's like, "You're looking good, baby." She's like, "I object."
I know.
I was like, "Ma'am, go away."
Like you're sending us mixed messages.
Mixed messages, yes. But I love Elle. She's so true to herself, and I also loved how like taking care of herself. And going shopping, getting her nails done, getting her hair done. That was her self-care. Mm-hmm. And it was her go-to when she was feeling down. I was like, I relate to that. Because I think it was just last week or the week before we were talking about regular spa days.
Yes, it's
and that's
true.
What we need in our life.
And like the concept of that like beauty salon being sort of like very central to like the way she's like finding community and like connecting with people. And she builds like a big friendship with Jennifer Coolidge, Queen.
Love her.
Queen. Through going to the salon, and like the bend and snap comes out of that setting. Probably the most iconic part of Legally Blonde, I think, that's like live beyond the movie is like the bend and snap.
Yeah, definitely.
And like, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I kind of feel like that scene probably came later in the development process because it felt so right, but it also felt a little, I felt like it was a little misplaced because it was like all of a sudden all these people come out of nowhere bending and snapping, and there's a song. It was like a musical almost, and I was just like, this is fun.
It was kind of like a music video moment, like inside of the movie.
I loved it though. I mean, like you said, it's definitely its most iconic part, and I think that's kind of like the cherry on top of what that movie really needed.
Yeah.
A bend and snap.
Which is so ridiculous because it's like, okay, what is that? Exactly. Like what actually is that? So like we're still talking about like getting men's attention, right? Because like the bend and snap is literally like the snap. I was watching it. I'm like, what is the snap? They're just smushing their boobs together. That's the snap.
That's the snap.
I'm like, what purpose does that serve?
I'm just like, I don't know anyone who bends and picks up anything like that and then snaps back up with their hands up like this.
Without breaking a UPS driver's nose.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
J. Cool. She's too cool
She's
for me.
She's so funny.
I love it.
I know. I think that was an iconic moment. I definitely think that, like, Mean Girls, I feel like was more kind of like embedded in culture moving forward. I think Legally Blonde has iconic moments, but I guess I think of them more in like a fashion sense. Like one of the things that really stood out for me was like the Tiffany & Co. like heart charm chain link necklace and bracelet. Mm-hmm. Like the chokehold that those pieces had on my generation. I had one of those heart bracelets. I actually still have it. And I thought, it's really funny, I thought that I was going to be Elle Woods for, I hate Halloween, but like I thought I had to commit to a Halloween thing. I actually ended up not having to, and it was perfect. But in the process of me thinking that I had to have a costume like 2 years ago, I was like, well, I'm going to be Elle Woods. And I have one of these heart charm bracelets, and I need to get it like polished because it was just sitting in a jewelry box. And it was like, it's hard to polish in the middle of those like chain links. Mm-hmm. So anyways, I took it to a jewelry store, had it professionally cleaned, got it back, realized I didn't have to do Halloween. But I have actually worn that bracelet since because now they're in fucking fashion again.
Yes, we love Tiffany's, actually.
We do. But I'm like, thank God I kept that. You know, I'd be kicking myself if I didn't have like my old charm bracelet.
I think those things are still so cute.
They are, but I mean, you could say they're timeless, but they're not. Like everything goes through phase. Like Uggs never went anywhere, but for a while they weren't cool. So in the same way that these bracelets never went anywhere, but for a while they weren't cool, meaning like you're not really like supposed to wear that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Now you
But
can
now
wear it
they're
again.
back. That's fashion. That's fashion.
That is fashion. So don't get rid of anything.
Just keep it all because it will come back into style.
Honestly. So is this where the trend of having a small dog that you brought around with you was born?
Was it?
I don't know if this, we were like, okay, we were what, 11? I don't know enough to know if this was happening before the movie or if this was a result of the movie. But I can definitely confirm that when my mom got a miniature poodle and he was a puppy of 5 pounds, I stuffed him in my Juicy Couture bag and I carried him around.
Oh, just like the It Girls. I love it.
Just like Elle Woods.
I love it.
I don't know. I mean, it's still very much a thing. These people and their dogs. Maybe it's a California thing. I don't know where it started, but
I mean, Paris and her crew were doing it in the early 2000s too. So I'm not sure where it started, but it did kind of carry.
It did carry
into the culture.
Yeah. But I think that was another like very like iconic part of this movie that it's like the dog has the matching outfit and the dog goes everywhere with you. And like the dog has a charm bracelet as a collar. Like, I feel like that really started something.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So maybe when you get Bagel and Rocket, you can kind of like dress them as like throwback bruisers.
Yeah, I think Bagel and Rocket will be a little too big for that.
Well, not when they're puppies.
That's only going to last all of, 6 months?
Yeah,
maybe
make the most of it. Any other thoughts from you on Legally Blonde?
Legally Blonde, 2001, sign of the times. It also had its share of problematic language and themes, but yeah. I love Legally Blonde. Like I said, Elle Woods is probably my favorite protagonist out of all the movies we're going to talk about today. And I just feel like she inspires me to always have confidence and have faith in myself and work hard and all that good stuff.
Yes. Be more you.
Be more me. Exactly. I do feel like it was such a Hollywood movie at the end when she was doing the trial for Ali Larter's character and she couldn't even question the witness properly. I was like, girl, didn't you come ready for this? This is the most basic part. What is happening right now?
Yeah. She nervous.
She eventually got it together.
She's nervous.
I guess. Well, I'm like, that was Law 101. Like when I was in undergrad, they taught us how to do that in the one law class that I did.
You had a law class?
I did. That's how I kind of learned the ins and outs of the courtroom. Not the ins and outs. I'll say the basics of just legal proceedings, law, how these things typically go, and how a lot of innocent people are put away. It was very eye-opening.
Was this a high school or college class?
This was in college.
Oh, okay. I would have had follow-up questions if that was a high school class.
Yeah, I don't think we'd had that. We had speech in high school, which was vaguely similar in a lot of different ways. But no, I was like, in high school and undergrad, we learned how to do that. So I was like, girl, you're in law school and you don't know how to question a witness? Do it!
Hollywood magic. Don't pick it apart.
Yeah, that's the only way. That was the only scene that I really wanted to yell at her about. I was just like, what's happening, girl? You're smarter than this. Come on.
Stage fright. Okay. Zodiac sign for Legally Blonde. I think this one's obvious because they actually claim it.
I mean, yes. So, Elle Woods is a Gemini.
Yep.
She says that publicly, her and her dog. I felt like the movie gave very much Aquarius vibes, though.
No way. Nope.
1,000%.
No way.
1,000%. Mm-hmm.
Nope. This
Yeah.
is a Gemini through and through.
I mean, they're both air signs.
Yeah, they are both air signs, but there's nothing remotely Aquarius about Elle Woods.
I don't know. She's very smart. She's a little spacey. She really doesn't care what other people think. She made that very, very clear. And she goes for what she wants, and she gets it. I wasn't really feeling the dual personality feel.
You weren't?
From her.
The way she bounces from Malibu Barbie to law student?
She did that for a boy.
Doesn't matter what for. Like, it's so Gemini. She literally is living two lives at the same time.
She is, but she was just so uncomfortable in one of them. I was just like, well, what is she doing in law school? But she was able to kind of shift and make it happen. So
I think it was like, for me, it read very Gemini through and through.
I don't know. She's very spacey like an Aquarius. So I love that about her.
I think we need to have a little breakdown of the air signs and like differentiate them offline.
Sure, why not?
It's like saying all earth signs are the same.
They're not. They're
Exactly.
actually very different.
Exactly. We're gonna have a little separate air
but
sign.
I feel like all the air signs are very different
tutorial for you. That's what I'm saying. Like, this is not an Aquarius. This is a Gemini.
If you say so.
I know so.
Of course you do. But you are an Aquarius, so there's that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Moving on. The Devil Wears.
The Devil Wears Prada. Our third movie. Our third movie reviewed for the pod. Go for it.
So this kind of continues on our timeline. We saw Mean Girls take place in a high school setting outside of Chicago. Then we moved on to Legally Blonde, that took place in both LA and Boston in a college grad school setting. And now we're in Devil Wears Prada, which takes place in the Big Apple, New York City. Andy has graduated college. She's looking for new opportunities, and she stumbled across an interview at Elias Clark, which is a huge publication in the nation. So basically, Elias Clark is a foil of Condé Nast.
Yeah. Basically, she gets a job at Vogue for Animal
Basically.
Tour.
But in the movie, it's called Runway.
Yes.
And she works for Miranda Priestley, played by the legendary Meryl Streep.
Such a legend. And this one was 2007. So later in the 2000s timeline, early 2000s timeline. And this, to me, this movie has a very different feel than the prior two. We're dealing with the workplace, which I think is just a totally different vibe. So like, you know, school, like regardless of where you're at in like your school timeline, like there are always going to be elements of school that are school. Mm-hmm. Now we're dealing with workplace and specifically first jobs. And I feel like, you know, okay, now we would have been 17 when this movie came out. We didn't know what was coming yet. Definitely did not know what was coming. And so when I watched this back, I thought it was really interesting from like having a bunch of work experience perspective now. And for me, it was like, I think when I probably watched as a teenager, it was mostly about like the fashion world and, you know, Paris Fashion Week. And like, you see, like they make their own version of like the Met Gala. Like, it's so funny to be like, oh, yep, that was this. And that was meant to be this. But now I watch it and I'm like, oh, like there are actually a lot of like work themes in this that I'm noticing now. I don't know how you felt about that.
Definitely some work themes, 1,000%. I just love this movie because I just thought it was so funny. I thought it was so hilarious. The reads were just nonstop. And I think one thing I really loved about this movie is that it really embodied the spirit of New York City in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
It was savvy, it was quick, it never slept. It was very energetic in its own way. And of course, I loved the fashions.
Yeah.
Andy looked a mess in the beginning. I was like, why does she not do her hair when she doesn't even brush it? She don't do nothing. She just wakes up and just like walks out the door. And I'm just like, what's happening right now?
And every movie has one of those freaking makeover moments. Did you notice that? There's a makeover
Yeah.
moment in every movie,
Yeah. Yeah, there
which I
is.
don't really know what that says. You know, it's like you're not good enough the way you are, question mark. But there's a makeover moment in every movie.
Yeah, I'm thinking like, what is the message in that? It's something problematic, but I feel like maybe it's something that can be twisted to be like inspiring.
It's giving problematic, but let's spin it.
Okay, maybe I shouldn't try to spin it because maybe that's problematic in itself.
Maybe. Yeah. We'll just call it what
Okay,
it is.
I'm gonna stay in my corner. I'm gonna do the coat. I'm gonna do the coat. But yes, lots of workplace themes. That was very like frustrating in a lot of ways because basically Andy is kind of forced to assimilate to her own workplace culture that she's found herself in to try to stick it out for at least a year
Mm-hmm.
because they say that if you work for Miranda Priestley for at least a year, you can get a job at any publication anywhere you want. And her dream is to be a journalist. So she basically commits herself to assimilating to the culture.
Mm-hmm.
She gets her makeover.
Mm-hmm.
She becomes just like the girls that she's working with, dressed to the nine, heels popping, hair popping, clothes popping, and she's basically at Miranda's beck and call, all to basically achieve her goals of eventually being a journalist. I can tell you that I almost kind of suffered PTSD for a little bit because I feel like a lot of us can kind of relate to having those jobs or those positions or those responsibilities that have maybe caused us like a lot of stress. And it's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of stress that you feel like it's not worth your time, it's not worth your energy in that way, and it's not really worth your life, which Andy eventually figures out. But I can tell you, when I used to work for a fine dining restaurant and everything was like really prim, proper, and buttoned up, I remember going into work stressed like every day because I just felt like it wasn't me. And I felt
Mm.
like that was kind of like some of the internal dialogues that Andy was having
Yeah.
with herself. And that was also mirrored with her relationships, not only with her boyfriend, but also with her friends as well.
Yeah. Yes. And I think, you know, a part of that comes from like, okay, your first job out of college, like you want to go do a good job and you want to be recognized for that because you are trying to feel like you can fit in somewhere, that you belong somewhere, that the education was worth it, that it can pay off. Like I think there's a lot of psychology going on with that, like the first job. And it's also like the culture that you're now experiencing is net new. Like you don't have any prior reference. And the corporate culture specifically is very different than the way you operate life. Like, and that's what I think people forget because once you sit in that for a while, it becomes your life and you're like, what's going on? But it's not normal. So you really do have to like learn the ropes and be like, what is going on here? This doesn't make sense. You expect me to answer the phone every time you call me, regardless of what time of day it is? Yes. Oh, okay. Interesting. You know, it's like blurring the boundaries of work and life. And I think that's one of the themes that's really pulled out here is, you know, Nigel's character actually says, and I think we both wrote down this quote, but it was like, as soon as you feel like your personal life is falling apart, it means you're doing something right at work. And like that is peak toxicity. It is
Whew.
peak toxicity.
Yeah,
But
it's really,
like,
really bad.
I can also say that mentality has absolutely been modeled to me in real life. And
Mm.
that's the scariest part.
That's the scariest part, definitely. But I think it kind of brought back home the fact that workplace culture is typically driven from the top down. So where Nigel had felt like, okay, well, my personal life comes second to my professional life. And once that falls apart, that must mean I'm succeeding at work. Similar sentiments were felt by Andy, obviously, as she confided in Nigel about, her issues with Miranda. But we also find that Miranda's going through a divorce as well because she
Mm-hmm.
can't seem to have her relationships work because she just sacrifices them for her head position as the head bitch in charge at Runway. So it's
Yeah.
just very, very strange and difficult to really kind of deal with. Being basically a young professional in that environment, especially as your first job, isn't any easier with a boss like Miranda,
No.
who obviously plays a lot of mind games.
Right.
So much that it was just tripping me out. Like, you wanted her to airlift you out of Florida during a hurricane. And she says, I don't know, it's just drizzling outside. Like, this is your job. Get me home. And I'm just sitting here like, what is happening right now?
Right.
It's just so insane. And when Andy fails at that task, I mean, Miranda goes on this diatribe of, I told myself, take a chance, hire the smart fat
Yeah.
girl. But you ended up being the biggest disappointment of all. I said, oh my gosh, what is happening?
Yeah, that guilt trip, man.
Manipulation and mind games. And that absolutely 1,000% happens to many of us that have worked in the corporate world. And when you're young, in your early 20s, you really don't know any better. I just felt bad for Andy most of the time. But
Yeah.
she ended up figuring it out towards the end.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely like displays a lot of the whole like grand expectations, and it's like, what do you expect me to walk on water? Absolutely. People to this day, it's like expectations are so high and also unreasonable that the hurricane example is a great one of like every commercial airliner is grounding their flights, and she's like, well, what are the private options? It's like those people who will just never take no for an answer and expect you to like unturn every stone on the planet to get something done. And it's like, Annie puts herself in those positions in some extent, like, okay, you can get an unpublished fucking version of Harry Potter. Like, so she's almost perpetuating the cycle, right? Because she's achieving some of these absolutely ridiculous requests.
Yeah, she ate that manuscript challenge. I was like, wow, she got that. Oh my gosh. It was
Right.
so crazy.
Right. But it's like she's almost self-perpetuating the cycle in the sense. And I think that's an interesting concept because, how many times, if you take on like the smaller scale, it's like, okay, how many times have you answered emails on a Saturday or a Sunday morning? Like, or how many times have you, stayed late after work and skipped to this or that? Like, how many times did you not take a lunch because you were trying to like meet somebody else's expectation? And it's like, that's the slippery slope. And I think the journey that Annie goes on throughout the whole process is it's like, how far is she going to let herself kind of like get pushed before she kind of like takes back, what feels true to her, what feels aligned to her, and starts setting her own boundaries. And being a young person in the workplace, like, you don't know that you need to set boundaries. Like, you don't know until it's almost too late.
Right. But I feel like in this situation, especially when you're in your early 20s and you're trying to figure things out and you're experiencing new things and you're learning a lot about yourself, I also want to point out that I think grace should be given to all young people in these moments because in a lot of ways you're charting new territories, you're learning about yourself, and you're also just growing in the same way. And I feel like at times her friends weren't as supportive of that as I would have liked them to be. But also on the flip side, I can understand that change can be difficult when your friend is, trying new things or has new responsibilities that might take you away from them. And I'm just saying, I would have loved to see just a little bit more grace being given to a young person who is really trying to make something work.
Yeah. I mean, and I hear that. I think I think it is given until like she really loses sight of like who she is, though. You know, like she pushes it to the point where she actually like breaks up with her boyfriend. You know what I mean? And so again, that's an example of like how far will you let things go? How far will you be pushed outside of who you truly are before you have to set the boundaries?
My issue with Andy throughout this movie is the frequent utterance of the term "I didn't have a choice."
Yep. Yep.
And in a way, that just kind of feels like a cop out of her kind of relinquishing maybe her missteps in some of her relationships, both professionally and personally. And I want to remind us all that we always have a choice. Like, if she really didn't like that job that much, or if it was really that much of a hindrance to her, she really could have always quit and found something different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which she ultimately does.
She ultimately did. She didn't even last a year. But at the end of the day, she was really true to herself. And I think that's all that really matters. I think Miranda respected that a whole lot as well.
Yes. Have you ever worked for a Miranda?
Not quite a Miranda. I can tell you one of my former supervisors was absolutely terrible. Major micromanager. And she also played mind games.
Oh, really?
But she wasn't as bad as Miranda.
I feel like I didn't work for Miranda in the sense of like this leader was like so like unreasonable, but I do feel like I worked for Miranda in the sense of like someone who was like a total fucking boss and I wanted to impress. And for me that says a lot because like I really don't care to impress like many people, but like this particular boss was like someone who I was like, wow, like I really admire the shit out of you. I think you're so fucking cool and like I want to impress you. She was never like evil or manipulative or anything, but she was just the type of person that did make you feel like you wanted your outfit to look put together if you had a meeting with her that day. Or you did feel like you wanted to be like the most prepared for like your time spent together because like you knew her time was like extremely valuable. So I don't think I ever like got like too far into like because again like she was very reasonable in her expectations, like she wasn't like a Cruella de Vil, but she was just like a total boss and I was like damn, like I need to be my best version of myself when I'm because I'm working for this person, which I think is a healthier example of like how working for people or places that you do think are like really iconic and revered and admirable can be a healthy thing given the right culture, you know?
Yeah. Totally.
So that was kind of fun. I never did. One time I did bring coffee and I was like, I got a college degree for this, but it was like one time. I was like, it's fine. I'll let it slide.
Yeah, I mean, it's one time. It's a field trip.
It's a field trip.
I think it's a field trip. But I think for this movie, it's always just important to realize, like, be true to yourself. And it's also just always okay to mess up and course correct.
Yeah.
No matter if you're in your 20s, 30s, or 40s. I think that's kind of like what my major takeaway from this was. Because she stepped into a role, she learned some new things, she found out it wasn't her, and then she kind of figured something else out. And that really is kind of like a microcosm of life overall. Like we try different things, some things stick, some things don't. And you kind of just have to keep moving forward.
Yeah. That and also like don't let work become your life. I think that's another like pretty big message.
Yeah, definitely not. I was never on that train.
So, okay, what zodiac sign is Devil Wears Prada?
So I was a little torn
Okay.
between between Capricorn and Virgo.
Mm-hmm.
Capricorn just because the tenacity of like over excelling. Those are a lot of Virgo traits as well. But Capricorns are kind of mean, so I think that's why I kind of lean towards Capricorn a little bit because Miranda's kind of mean. So yeah, I was stuck in between the two, but I'm leaning towards Capricorn.
I can
What
see
did
that.
you think?
I can see that. I can see how you'd like maybe think Virgo. I landed on Capricorn. I think The Devil Wears Prada is a total Capricorn. Just from like, the pure boss bitch energy alone, like you cannot miss. Like it's top of the game, it's orderly, it's like punctual. It has those elements of like being really tied to the time clock and like, crossing your T's, dotting your I's, like very orderly. So in addition to having that sort of like bossiness to it, like it also has like the very orderly elements. And I think Miranda's just like a total Capricorn, and it's hard to separate. I mean, Miranda like makes the whole thing. So I'm like, she is the movie sign.
She is the movie sign. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I think maybe Andy being able to assimilate and excel in this new corporate culture kind of like spoke to the Virgo piece a little bit.
Yeah.
But Miranda, the movie, is definitely a Capricorn play. It's
Yeah.
very aggressive.
Yes. Okay. So those are cult classics: Mean Girls, Legally Blonde, and Devil Wears Prada. We also did a compare and contrast because we wanted to see what's popular these days. And the closest thing to Mean Girls for the current era is a movie called Do Revenge. It's a Netflix film. It's being compared to Mean Girls as the Mean Girls of Gen Z. So we had to check it out and just see what was going on here. And I'll be interested. I think we're too close to it. The movie came out this year. It's 2022. So I think we're a little too close to it in the terms of seeing like how, if at all, it really like drives culture. But I definitely feel like it's more reflective of living in 2022.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that 1,000%. I think it really kind of told us where the times are today.
Yeah. So we won't give away the plot because if you haven't seen the movie, you can still watch it. But these are, again, it's set in high school, and there is some revenge that needs to be done on some people. So the main character, Drea, teams up with Eleanor, and they become sort of baddie besties in the sense that they're going to do each other's revenge on certain people in the high school.
Mm-hmm.
This movie is a lot darker than Mean Girls.
Yeah, it was a little trippy. It was a little bit of a mind fuck in a lot of ways. When I looked at it, I think it said comedy on it, but there wasn't that much funny about it. Not that like it's super heavy, but it just like wasn't comical in the way that Mean Girls was. And there's a lot of like twists and turns. I'll say that.
Yes, it's definitely more of like a dark comedy. But I kind of appreciated the twist. Like, I think that as we just consume more content over time, it's like you have to mix things up a little bit in terms of the storyline. And it's like, okay, like, where are we going to go here? We can't always create the same thing. So maybe that's kind of just like what's happening here is they're like, we need to have a twist.
Oh yeah, and I appreciated that too. Like I can see some of the liberties and inspiration.
Yeah.
I feel like I saw a couple little moments from maybe other really popular either series or movies from throughout the years that were reflected in there too. So I love the creativity behind it.
Yeah.
I think calling it the new Mean Girls is a really, really big stretch. Aside from that, I thought it was a good movie.
Yes. I thought it was good too. I mean, I think it's the closest thing that's come to, so it's being compared to Mean Girls because, again, it's dealing with high school. It is like very reflective of high schoolers, apparently, in the moment. And it's really like the only kind of like teen, I don't know, like we just don't make a lot of, I feel like there are more TV series these days. I feel like there are more, or like episodic kind of shows. Like
Yeah.
there just aren't a lot of movies in general anymore, I feel
Right.
like.
Yeah.
And then to have like at least a kind of parallel topic, I think what Do Revenge does is it kind of like, it acknowledges all of these previous movies. Like there's a scene where I think they actually really mirror what happened when Regina George causes chaos in the high school, where she's like throwing around the burn book copies. Like
1,000%.
there's a
Yeah.
very similar scene where Drea's like basically like getting shit crazy in her hallways, So like I think there's some parallels that are kind of probably intentional. But like the drugs are harder, the technology is faster. Like they're definitely just like this movie is very. I feel like if we had seen this when we were 14, we'd be shocked.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. This movie kind of reminded me a little bit of John Tucker Must Die also.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that one.
So basically, it's a movie about like John Tucker, who basically was like dealing with these three girls, and they all find out, and then they all go on this like plot to get their revenge on him and expose him for who he really is, which kind of is what Do Revenge seeks out to be, with a whole bunch of other plot twists.
Yeah.
But I think kind of like we said earlier, it does kind of pick and choose some very iconic themes from teen movies from throughout the years, and maybe even some other iconic series that aren't necessarily teen movies.
Yeah.
And kind of like puts it all together and adds like a new twist to it, which I absolutely love.
Yeah.
Like I hate seeing the same thing over and over again. So anytime anyone can do something that is familiar but like adds some type of new element to it and make it great as a standalone, I definitely have to take my hat off to that. And that's why I actually really like this movie.
Okay, so you did like it.
I liked it a lot, actually.
Good.
It was so trippy. It almost felt like a psychological thriller, to be honest.
Well, I feel like we should. I don't want to give away too much because I think a lot of people probably haven't seen it yet. But should we give it a zodiac sign and then let people go discover it for themselves?
We definitely can.
Okay.
I mean, the first thing that came to mind over and over again actually was just Scorpio.
Yes! I gave it Scorpio too.
Definitely Scorpio vibes.
It is a Scorpio movie for sure. For sure.
Oh my gosh, yes. The main character, Drea, at times, actually for most of the movie, felt like an anti-hero, to be honest. Because even though she definitely had like clear motive for what she was doing, I feel like she just got a little crazy sometimes. And I was just like, yeah, that's a Scorpio.
Yeah, I definitely feel like it was very like dark side of the moon, like emotionally driven, kind of like devilish in a way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it was just giving Scorpio. Sorry to say it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. 1,000%. It was just very it was tough to watch at times.
I mean,
I was just like, oh,
we love all signs. We love all signs.
We love everybody. But everybody knows Scorpios are the most vindictive sign in the zodiac. And the way that this was portrayed in Do Revenge, I couldn't choose anyone else.
Yeah. Okay. So we both agreed, not that we have to agree, but we agreed on 2 out of the 4 zodiac signs.
Yes. Yes.
Ooh, okay. Well, this was really fun. I think that like looking back at some of these movies, cult classics, very, very, very iconic. It's so fun to just see like how ingrained they really are in the culture, and like even just the pieces of them that are being revived with things like TikTok, I think is just very fascinating. And this is fun. So maybe we'll have to do like a 2000s, like we should do like a little series. Like maybe we should do music next.
Yes, I'm obsessed with that idea. There's just so much we can pull from that era. And I firmly believe that it's our generation that's really pushing a lot of these trends that we see Gen Z picking up on. So I think
you want to claim the credit.
I'm just saying. A lot of stuff came out when we were coming up. So yeah, I don't know. Definitely let's make it a series. There's so much to talk about. So we'll brainstorm.
Oh, reality TV
Oh my
basically raised
gosh.
us.
Basically, and it really started out during, our adolescence
Yeah.
too.
hmm
Oh
Same
my
era.
gosh.
Okay. All right. Let's transition into this week's Love It or Leave It. Najee, what are you loving this week?
Well, this week I'm loving two things. So we know that Thanksgiving was last week,
Yeah.
and we kind of spent it on our own solo dolo journeys.
Yep.
And I just really appreciated taking the time out to kind of do that self reflection. And I also really appreciated that I had options just in case I changed my mind. And not
hmm
a lot of people have that, so I want to be grateful for that. So that's one thing I'm loving. The second thing I'm loving is that I bought a Mariah Carey candle from the store the other day.
Okay.
It's like her holiday candle. I didn't know she had it. So it was just like a stand with her face on it. And I was just like, oh my gosh, it's Mariah Carey. I have to buy it. The candle smells absolutely amazing. It's like some type of like earthy, woodsy holiday scent that I will be buying 10 more of next time I go to the store. So excited about that.
What is Mariah's zodiac sign?
She's an Aries.
She's an Aries. Okay. Yeah.
Yes. March 27th.
Okay.
My God. Okay. What I'm leaving this week.
hmm
What I'm leaving this week is Elon Musk trying to kill Twitter.
Oh, yeah. That's been in progress for a few weeks.
Yeah, I know, and I absolutely hate it.
We don't have enough time to get into it, but I definitely have a lot of thoughts.
So many thoughts, but I also feel like this is something that we all saw once we first heard about the deal even potentially happening. And even though I have foregone my Twitter quite some time ago, I still revere it as hands down one of my favorite social media platforms because it's such an easy way to exchange information in real time.
Yeah.
And I just feel like that's not respected and under its current management. So it just makes me a little sad. That's
Yeah.
all.
I hear you. Ugh. Yeah. Like I said, I just can't start on that. I can't start on that. This week, I am loving that I kind of have bangs now.
Come on, bangs.
Just a little bit, though. They're not they're not full bangs.
They're giving mini bangs.
They're giving just a couple of face framers that are still long enough to tuck into my ponytail. So basically, I'm just giving myself another aesthetic option for when I do my hair. Now, I'm very specific in saying they're not full bangs because I feel like growing out bangs as a child was one of the most traumatic memories I have.
Oh no.
Like, there was just the phase of like pinning them up, pinning them back forever. And I felt like once I decided I no longer wanted to have bangs as like an adolescent, they just could not grow fast enough. So now I'm very hesitant about haircuts in general. Well, that's a different trauma, but I'm very hesitant about haircuts in general. And the fact that I have these little pseudo bangs is like a big deal.
Come through, Bayang.
I know.
So, interestingly enough, Drea had her face framer bangs in Do Revenge.
I know. They're very trendy. They're very popular.
And Anne Hathaway rocked her full faux head bangs after her makeover in The Devil Wears.
I know. Yeah, the face framers are like a thing now. After this conversation, you'll see them everywhere.
Probably. I'll definitely start noticing them more.
But I'm liking them. It's a little mix up. I don't do a lot of big changes with my hair because again, it's just one of those things where it takes a long time to recover from drastic changes. So I'm a little more conservative with my hair.
Well, we love the blonde blowout that you debuted on the Instagram
Thank
last
you.
week. Obsessed with that.
Thanks, darling. I love how you're like, come on, blowout. And I'm like, yes, you see me.
You see me. You see me.
Yes, bestie.
Yes, God. Yes, God, them locks were locking, baby.
The locks are locking.
Yes,
Hey.
God. All right, Ava, what are you leaving this week?
This week, I am leaving behind the whole Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Cyber Week extravaganza.
I feel like a lot of people are.
I'm over it. I'm so over it. I'm over the incessant emails that feel like spam. I'm over the fact that these sales aren't even like doorbuster deals. I mean, we're seeing like 10% off, 20% off. Fuck, I even bought something that wasn't on sale at all, but I was just like capitalizing on like the spirit of the moment.
Oh, gosh.
I think that Black Friday was a chapter that needs to close. Because if the retailers are entering Black Friday being all like cheap in the sense that they don't want to offer actual deals, I'm not going to enter the arena to buy.
Yeah, I don't blame you. There's definitely been some threads that I've been seeing on social media about how Black Friday isn't Black Fridaying like it typically is. And
It's
I'm
not.
also wondering if that's just a sign of where we are at in this economy right now, where everything is just really, really expensive. It's like hard to live for a
Yeah.
lot of people.
And then from like the other perspective, like I had to support a lot of Black Friday marketing campaigns from a social media perspective,
Yeah.
and from a paid advertising perspective in my days. And, you know, like what that does to teams, like they actually don't even get to take time off over the holidays. Like they're working on Thanksgiving, they're working the day after Thanksgiving, they're working all through the weekend. Like if you know someone who works for a company that sells anything, whether it's like a physical product or a service, just give them a hug, because it really is, it's like a battle, and it happens at the end of the year and people are already tired, and I just think we should do away with the whole thing.
I feel you.
Let's retire this. Let's add this holiday to the list of of days we're going to reclaim.
I wish I got off for Black Friday, but yeah, we can totally reclaim that. I would, especially since I don't get a day off for it. So bye, Black
Bye.
Friday.
She
You
gone.
definitely didn't serve your purpose this year, so you can go.
No. So that's what I'm leaving this week.
I don't blame you. Luckily, we just have Christmas, then we have a brand new year to celebrate, so we're almost there, babes.
We are.
In the meantime, thanks for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, rate and review us wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, and tune in every Wednesday to hear the things that make us more us and discover a thing or two to make you more you. Bye.
Bye.